Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to Book Talk Tuesday. And today we are talking murder. For a long time, there was a period in my reading life where I almost exclusively read thrillers. And I've gotten away from that now, but I do like a good thriller from time to time. So what I want to talk about today is 2 books that are not so new that have been on my shelves for a while, and then 4 books that are pretty new. What I found about thrillers is they can kind of cross lines. Some can cross into horror, so you see people who almost exclusively read horror will read a thriller now and then, and they also go into detective fiction. I'm not going to talk about detectives today. That's another video. But today I've got some thrillers, some that I need to get to, like I said, and some that I just bought and I'm excited to get to. Before that, though, I do want to add, in my weekend books that posted yesterday, I talked about Hurricane Helene and relief efforts that were underway. I didn't mention it in the video, but I added to the description box in that video a link that to a list that North Carolina Symphony put together of legit organizations that you can donate to if you choose. I will add the link below here as well. One of those organizations is World Central Kitchen. I have been following Jose Andres for a long time, and his organization, World Central Kitchen, goes out to disaster areas worldwide. They helped in Gaza, they helped in, I don't remember where it was, but a tornado decimated a town a year or 2 ago, and they're out helping with Helene in North Carolina as well. So all good organizations. If you have the means, please give. It would mean so much to people whose lives have been devastated. Anyway, back to thrillers. So the first one is one I've read Megan Miranda before, but I've not read this one. It just hasn't been, I haven't been in the mood for it. I hate to call myself a mood reader, but it is what it is. That is The Last to Vanish by Megan Miranda. I don't have my glasses here, so I'm going to have to wing this. Oh, there they are. But this one should be fine. 10 years ago, Abigail Lovett fell into a job she loves, managing the Passage Inn, a cozy, a cozy resort nestled in the mountains of North Carolina in a town called Cutter's Pass. I did not remember this was set in North Carolina. So this is really coincidence. Tourists are drawn to the town for its outdoor offerings and proximity to the Appalachian Trail, but also for its notorious history as the last known location for 6 different visitors who vanished without a trace over the past 3 decades. When journalist Landon West comes to investigate the story of the Vanishing Trail, then disappears himself, the town and the inn are thrust back in the spotlight. After months without any leads, Abby is shocked when West's brother, Trey, checks into the Passage Inn one evening. Knowing how cold the case is, Abby can't help but feel for this man. She's all too familiar with how the locals tend to close ranks against outsiders. But it isn't until Abby uncovers incriminating new evidence that she realizes how very little she knows about her coworkers and neighbors, and just how dangerous that is. Now I'm going to have to bump this up. I did not realize this was set in North Carolina at all. Or I must have realized it at one point. It's set in August 2022. When did this publish? Hmm, 2022. I'm going to add this to my read soon list, which is, you know, how that goes. The next one is by Audrain, The Whispers. I actually heard about this from Mother Horror, who almost exclusively reads horror. This was published in 2023, and I still haven't read it. On Harlow Street, the well-to-do neighborhood couples and their children gather for a barbecue as the summer winds down. Everything is fabulous until Whitney, the picture-perfect hostess, explodes in fury because her son disobeys her. Everyone at the party hears her exquisite veneer crack, loud and clear. Before long, that same young boy falls from his bedside window in the middle of the night. And then his mother can only sit by her son's hospital bed, where his life hangs in the balance. Over the course of 3 tense days, the women of the neighborhood grapple with what led to that terrible night. People-pleasing Blair, Whitney's best friend, suspects something isn't as it seems. Rebecca, the ER doctor who helps treat Whitney's son, has struggled to have a child of her own. And the all-knowing Mara, the older woman next door, watches everyone's world unravel from her front porch. Exploring envy, women's friendships, desire, and the intuitions we all silence, The Whispers is a chilling novel that marks Ashley Audrain as a major fiction talent. I have not read anything by her, but I will get to that one day. I have a TBR cart that's got a lot of old stuff. It had The Last of Vanish and The Whispers. I say old, it's a couple years. But I've had them for so long that now I'm like hesitant to read them. But now, doing this video and reading that blurb from The Last of Vanish, it gets me interested in it again. Next up is something new. Also heard about this from Mother Horror. The Hitchcock Hotel by Stephanie Wrobel. When I was in college, I think I've mentioned this, I took some classes that were film watching and not film watching. It was about films and directing and movie making. And we watched a lot of Hitchcock. I know he's kind of a crap human being, or was, but his work was brilliant. And with regard to those classes, my family used to joke that I was going to major in TV watching, which, hey, worst majors out there. Anywho, in the Hitchcock Hotel, a Hitchcock fanatic with an agenda invites old friends for a weekend stay at a secluded themed hotel in this fiendishly clever, suspenseful new novel from the international best-selling author of Darling Rose Gold. Never heard of that. Alfred Smedel is not your average Hitchcock fan. He's the founder, owner, and manager of the Hitchcock Hotel, a sprawling Victorian house in the White Mountains dedicated to the master of suspense. There, Alfred offers his guests around-the-clock film screenings, movie props, and memorabilia in every room, plus an aviary with 50 crows. Sounds like my kind of place. To celebrate the hotel's first anniversary, he invites his former best friends from his college film club for a reunion. He hasn't spoken to any of them in 16 years. Not after what happened. But who better than they to appreciate Alfred's creation and to help him finish it? After all, no Hitchcock set is complete without a body. Last year, I read a book called The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell, and it was based around a reality TV cooking show. I love reality TV, books based on reality TV shows. Most of them are wins for me. Occasionally I'll get a bad one, but I love them. Anyway, Jessa is out with a new book called I Need You to Read This. This is not about a cooking show, but I liked The Golden Spoon well enough to buy this too. Dear Constance, is it possible to ever truly start over? Like thousands before her, Alex Marks escaped to New York City for a fresh start. Now, she spends her mornings at the Bluebird Diner reading the paper over coffee with the regulars, and her days working as a copywriter. Mostly, she keeps to herself, not venturing far outside of her small bubble. But when her childhood hero, Frances King, the country's premier advice columnist, is murdered, Alex's meticulously guarded world cracks. Frances authored the famous advice column, Dear Constance, and her words guided Alex through some of her darkest times. When the New York Herald posts an advertisement searching for Frances's replacement, Alex impulsively applies, never expecting to actually get the job. Alex quickly proves herself skilled at solving other people's problems, but as soon as she settles in, she begins receiving strange letters. As Alex is drawn into the details surrounding her predecessor's murder, her own dark secrets surface and push her into a deadly game that takes her far from the power centers of Manhattan to Frances Keene's summer house, where her body was found and where her killer may just be waiting. Interesting. I bought this a couple weeks ago. It's published this year. Next up is another one set in North Carolina. I did remember this one. It starts out in North Carolina, I believe. Let's find out. That is Long Time Gone by Charlie Donlea. Not read anything by this author either. Anywho. When Dr. Sloane Hastings submits her DNA to an online genealogy site for a research assignment, her goal is to better understand the treasure trove of genetic information contained on ancestry websites. Brilliant and driven, Sloane is embarking on a fellowship in forensic pathology, training under the renowned Dr. Livia Cuddy. Okay, wait. I thought there was... No. It is. It starts in Raleigh, North Carolina. It doesn't say it so far here in this blurb. Sloane has one reservation involving herself in the experience. In the experiment, she's adopted. Grateful for a loving home, she's never considered tracking down her biological parents. The results of her search are shocking. Sloane's DNA profile suggests her true identity is that of Charlotte Margolin, aka Baby Charlotte, who captured the nation's attention when she mysteriously disappeared along with her parents in July 1995. Despite an exhaustive search, the family was never seen again, and no suspects were named in the case. Sloane's discovery leads her to the small town of Cedar Creek, Nevada, the site of her disappearance. It also leads her to Sheriff Eric Stamos. The Margolin family's influence and power permeate every corner of Harrison County, and Eric is convinced that in learning the truth about her past, Sloane can also help discover what happened to Eric's father, who died under suspicious circumstances soon after he started investigating her disappearance. Slowly, over the course of a stifling summer, Sloane begins getting to know her relatives. Though initially welcoming, the Margolin family is also mysterious and tight-lipped. Not everyone seems happy about Sloane's return or the questions she's asking, and the more she and Eric learn, the more apparent it becomes that the answers they both seek are buried in a graveyard of Margolin family secrets that some will do anything to keep hidden, no matter who else has to die. I got that. I'd not heard of the author. I hadn't heard of the book before. Picked it up at the Barnes & Noble, which is still closed, by the way, because I was in the mood for a thriller, and yet I still haven't gotten to it. Last one, this is called A Grand Gothic Story by S.A. Cosby, who, if you haven't read him, I love him. This is one that I think could be thriller and maybe horror as well. That is John Fram's No Road Home. I've not read John Fram. These are a lot of these are new authors to me, except for Jessa Maxwell and Miranda. In No Road Home, no one is prepared for the lengths a father will go to protect his young son. For years, single father Toby Tucker has done his best to keep his sensitive young son, Luca, safe from the bigotry of the world. But when Toby marries Alyssa Wright, the granddaughter of a famed televangelist known for grandiose Old Testament preaching, he can't imagine the world of religion, wealth, and hate that he and Luca are about to enter. I can't wait to read this. I have heard great things about it. Anyway, a trip to the Wright family's compound in sun-scorched Texas soon turns hellish when Toby realizes that Alyssa and the rest of her brood have dangerous plans for him and his son. The situation only grows more dire when a freak storm cuts off the roads and the family patriarch is found murdered, stabbed in the chest on the roof of their sprawling mansion. Suspicion immediately turns to Toby, 'cause why not? But when his son starts describing a spectral figure in a black suit lurking around the house with unfinished business in mind, Toby realizes that this family has more than a murder to conceal and to fear. And that is it. That is that is not my thriller collection. That is 5, 6 books, 6 books that I curated that were downstairs that I want to read soon. And I'd love to hear from you if you have any thrillers that you'd recommend, or if you've read any of these and can help me prioritize which one to read first. As always, I will put links to all these books for bookshop.org down in the description box. I'll also put a link to the NC Symphony's list of organizations, legit organizations, that are accepting donations to help out in the wake of Hurricane Helene. As I mentioned yesterday, there is another hurricane brewing. It looks like it's going to leave North Carolina alone, but it is going to slam into the Tampa area, at least how it looks now, of Florida, and they don't need another hurricane either. That is all for me. I think I've been debating what I'm going to do for tomorrow, Wednesday's video. I usually do some sort of book haul, but earlier today I drove by, not that I could have afforded it, but I drove by the Barnes & Noble on the way to get some groceries, and it looks like Barnes & Noble is still shut down. So I think I'm going to do something way different than anything I've ever done before. It is also a book haul, and it's the kind of thing that happens when I get denied going to my local Barnes & Noble, and it also is kind of an attempt to get back some lost mojo. That is it for me. Happy reading!